Chapter 5: Exoskeletons and Beyond. Experiential learning is defined as the process of learning through experience or by reflecting on experiences. Simply put, students learn more when the subject matter pertains to them personally, and the act of doing makes the subject matter extremely personal. For students with a disability, however, these hands-on opportunities are often not accessible, and without significant technological advancements, students with disabilities lose out on invaluable real-world connections to their classroom education. Acknowledging the importance of experiential learning in modern higher education, how has mobility assistive technology advanced to meet the needs of students with disabilities? Does it go far enough? And where could it go in the future? The use of labs, co-op placements, and hands-on experiences as a learning tool is widespread in education. Starting even in kindergarten, students are exposed to in-class experiments designed to supplement content and develop a more thorough understanding through experiential learning. Access and usage of labs, co-ops, and kinesthetic learning opportunities continue to be central to how content is taught and understood in university settings and continuing into the workplace. Students with mobility disabilities, who often require the use of wheelchairs, prosthetic limbs, canes, crutches, or walkers, are traditionally unable to access the locations in which these opportunities are held, for example, in the natural environment, job sites, or laboratories. In order to unlock these experiential learning opportunities, technology once again was forced to evolve to more closely allow students with disabilities to achieve a non-pathogenic disease status, or, to put it simply, to allow them to accomplish the same tasks as their able-bodied peers. In the early 2000s, pressure on engineers and scientists once again reached the crucial tipping point between a social movement and technological advancement, and therefore engineers began to explore bracing and biometric integration in order to meet the needs of students with disabilities in higher education. In 2004, a group of leaders established BioNess Incorporated to help individuals with neurological impairments regain their independence. With the support of entrepreneur and philanthropist Alfred E. Mann, BioNess was formed to develop and distribute neuromodulation devices into the field of rehabilitation. The earliest versions of these devices, coming to market in 2007, involved electrical stimulation to nerves, involved in dorsiflexion of the foot, extension of the knee and hip, and this allowed for a normal walking gait, along with strategic bracing for support. Nearly 3 years later, in 2010, Bitamia, a Quebec-based company, adapted a military lower body exoskeleton for the rehabilitation and disability market, in response to pressure from people with disabilities desiring a more complete, bilateral, and powerful device than the BioNess. This device became known as the Kyogo Dermoskeleton, a powered walking assistance device that helps stabilize and complete an initiated movement for people with disabilities. At any given time, Kyogo reads body position and movements in order to interpret movement-based intentions and help bring those movements to fruition via battery and computer-assisted motors in the hips and knees of the suit. The advantages of these suits is twofold. The first action that allows the Kyogo to be useful is the nature of the bracing itself, consisting of 2 complete HK-AFOs, or hip, knee, ankle orthotic braces. Before any power is even added to the suit, it is providing stability from unintentional movement in the lateral, posterior, or anterior directions, essentially providing balance to people with disabilities who may not possess the proprioception or muscle control to achieve this on their own. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, the device acts to amplify initiated movement using battery-powered motors that leverage the lower limbs to complete a full range of motion required for activities such as walking, running, climbing stairs, or navigating uneven terrain. The development of this device and predicted development of an upper body and core assistive version allows students with disabilities access to previously inaccessible experiential learning opportunities that would have been presented to their able-bodied peers. This allows them to fully participate in cooperative education placements, fieldwork, and lab work without consideration of accessibility or accommodations. Throughout this series, we have explored a number of mobility assistive devices, encompassing ramps and curb cuts, wheelchairs, service animals, and athletic equipment, all of which have been developed through different social, political, legislative, or media-based pressures in response to the activism of and allyship with people with disabilities. The pattern that has emerged in tech development is one that is often drawn out across many decades, sometimes longer. Initially, the first pressures come from individuals or groups, traditionally students with disabilities themselves, indicating that they have a need that is not currently being met. This is followed by technological development by engineers, architects, science and researchers that progress to the point of meeting that need. And finally, many tens of years later, legislative protection is signed and passed to protect the rights, freedoms, and expectations associated with this new technology. This process repeats itself as each new need is identified, yet progress again ceases once the need has been perceived as being met. This sequential timeline serves only to extend what is already a drawn-out process, by waiting for each step in the chain of events to be completed prior to commencing the next. Tech advancements that assist students with disabilities are delayed unnecessarily, often by decades. In the future, as opposed to a cause and effect relationship, mobility assistive technology should attempt a more constant progression, essentially mimicking the Darwinistic view of evolution. Constant variation and innovation with the best and most efficient ideas achieving longevity, popularity, and widespread legal protection for the new challenges they may pose to current legislation. Considering that disability is a natural variation in the human condition, and that the percentage of students with disabilities are only expected to increase with initiatives aimed at widening access to higher education, understanding the history of mobility assistive technology is particularly relevant, as the gap between the abled and the disabled becomes ever smaller. As is the case in many areas of science, understanding and learning from the past will be the key to unlocking the future of higher education for students with disabilities.